What's going on, guys? It's Digimon TCG coming to you with another deck profile. Now, today is the first deck profile or BT12 format, and it is Imperialdramon. This is one of my favorite decks, actually, and I'm really excited for it to be my first deck profile that I give you for the BT12 format. So, with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you want to see in the future in the comment section. So, starting things off, we're going to be talking about the eggs, and as always, this is just a rough draft right now because we don't have the cards in hand, and unfortunately I don't have enough cards to play test with this deck yet. It's just a general idea and some of the reasoning behind some of the cards. I don't know how consistent it will be, and some ratios may change in the future, so just keep all that in mind. So with the eggs, we are running 4 copies of the Demi V. That is when attacking, once a return. If this Digimon has jamming, draw 1. This one has the same effect, except you have to have a green Digimon in play rather than jamming. Depending on how the format looks and how this deck, how consistent this deck will be, then you can see these ratios kind of change, either as a 2-3 split or just consistently where the BT12 is going to be 4 and the BT3 version will be 1 of. Going into our rookie count, though, we are running 4 of the new Vmon. This one is significantly better than the old starter deck 9 Vmon, although we still run each. This is on play, reveal the top 3 of your deck, add 1 Imperialdramon or free in its traits to your hand, and 1 card with Davis Monomiya in its name. The rest go to bottom, and then it has an inherited of end of turn. You can DNA Digivolve this Digimon and one of your other Digimon into a Digimon in your hand with by paying the DNA cost. So again, I do think that this is a much better card than the other one. It's just more consistent. Being able to DNA also is very important at the end of the turn, because there are cards that will allow you to gain back memory, keeping your turn once you hit that end of turn timing. We are running, I'll go over to the other Vmon first. We're running 2 copies of the starter deck 9 Vmon. This one is on play. Look at the top 3, add a free and traits to your hand. Practically everything in here is free other than a few other cards, but I do think that this one is a good card to consider when building the deck, just to be able to get that consistency and get your pieces. Also, this Vmon can search this one can search this one. So just keep that in mind. We are running a 4 of Labramon, very important because we still run cards that have jamming, although not as many, and you kind of have to get to your level 5s to gain more of the jamming effects. You can cut this down if you want, but I do think that this card is really good if you are running more of a jamming engine. I also am running 2 copies of Jellymon, and this one I think is actually a very important card to keep in the deck. And the reason is that when you play a Blue Tamer, you draw 1, that's fine, but the more important one is the inherited effect of when a card adds a card to your hand. When effect adds a card to your hand, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to the owner's hand. So why is this important? Because your opponent can definitely put some floodgates on you, like a Gazimon or Solarmon or other cards that essentially will make it much harder to get to your win condition in this deck. And having the Jellymon as an inherited is good because you will be able to at least bounce those to hand so that you can continue doing your effects. So this card is very important, and of course, depending on what the meta looks like, you could always cut this card for other cards if you really don't feel comfortable playing it. Running into our level 4s, we are running, I'll go over the XVmons and then the Stingmons just so I can talk about each one. This XVmon is the new one from BT12. When this Digimon DNAs with a green Digimon into a green Digimon, gain a memory. As mentioned before, remember about that end of turn DNA. Well, you can have this in raising with this card if you'd really want it, and then you can hard play one of the other Stingmons or something like that and gain memory back via this XVmon, because all our level 5s are blue and green cards. So you'll always go into a green card, gaining back the memory. And as I mentioned before, also, Jellymon here does have that ability to bounce a card to your opponent's hand, so to gain back memory. So that's also very important. So we are running that, and then as an inherited, it has if this Digimon has Imperialdramon in its name or free in traits, it gains jamming. This is going to be important, especially being able to OTK your opponent or be able to at least put a lot of pressure on your opponent. So, and it works with everything other than one other. No, actually, yeah, it runs with everything except for one card in this deck. This other XVmon I don't think is as important. I'll explain why. This one I put at 2, and it's jamming. That's fine. And then it gives jamming as well as inherited. That's fine. This one also gives in jamming as inherited if I didn't mention it. But this one here, basically, you have to attack. Most people wouldn't want to attack to get a draw out of the eggs. The problem is that there are going to be so many Digimon with high DP and a blocker or redirect in this upcoming format that I don't think that this one is going to see as much play and is not going to be successful in being able to really do what you want with it. I think this one is going to be much more easily available, and for you to get to your level 5s and 6s and be able to pull off those effects, it's just going to be more consistent to going that route in terms of jamming rather than having the early one. But it's still important to run. We are running two copies of the Stingmon from BT12. Same reason for this, same exact effect, except just a little bit reversed. If you Digivolve into a blue Digimon with DNA, you gain a memory, so having both of these, you gain 2 memory back. Again, you can see why the memory gain is so important in this deck, especially with Jellymon, why I put Jellymon in this deck. And then, of course, same kind of inherited. You need Imperialdramon to free its traits, but it gains piercing this time. Something it didn't have in the previous iterations of the deck. And I do think it's very important because that will allow you to definitely be able to do more damage with your higher up level Digimon. We also run 3 copies of Stingmon here. This is, of course, one playing it. You can reduce the cost by 1 if you have a blue Digimon in play. Most of the time you do. And then as an inherited, when attacking, if you have a blue Digimon in play, which most of the time you will have, you will be able to attack and draw a card. So very good for being able to do that multiple times a turn. Going into our level 5s, some people will lean toward the aggro version of the deck and kind of run more Pyodramons. Some might actually go the opposite route and just say, yeah, I'm more control, I'm just going to get rid of cards on this side. It's yet to be determined which is the best version at the moment, but a lot of people are going toward the aggro side, in which you run the Pyodramon. So we are running 2 copies of Pyodramon from Star Deck 9. When you DNA, you can bounce a 6,000 DP or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. And then when attacking, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So again, good for double chip damage with this card. And good for going into your future plays with your Megas, which I'll talk about in a bit. Then we have the other Pyodramon here. This is a little bit of a less aggro one, but more control type of card, which I do like to tech in. But again, I might change up the ratio depending on what the format looks like. When Digivolving, trash top 3 cards of all of your opponent's Digimon. That's really good. Just being able to get rid of multiple stacks cards. It's good against hunters. It's good against stuff like Blackwork Greymon, especially since they have a good upper stack of cards. It doesn't do too much to Beelzemon, honestly, but it does at least trash some of the sources. And then 2 of your opponent's Digimon with no sources cannot attack if it's DNA Digivolved. And then end the turn if this Digimon has Imperialdramon in its name or free in its traits, gain 1 memory. Again, good way of being able to gain that memory. So I do like this card a lot. That also might actually affect if you're running a more control version. You might actually choose to run this card in something like a blue hybrid deck. But I am trying it out at least 2 of in this version of the deck. And then the star, I guess, of the level 5s is the new Dino Beamon. This one I think is just really good for what it is. And it's a 1 Digivolving, 1 DNA Digivolving, suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon. And then this Digimon gets 3,000 for the turn. That's important. We'll talk about that later. And then this Digimon may attack your opponent's Digimon. Now, I don't know exactly why it has that clause, unless maybe there's going to be cards that if you Digivolve, then you lose a memory or something like that. But it is good because you can combine this with the Davis that we are getting to be able to warp this into your Imperialdramon Dragon modes or fighter modes. So very good card. And also as an inherited, when your Digimon with Imperialdramon are free in its traits, deletes an opponent's Digimon battle, trash the top card of their security stack. So does piercing and stack, trashes the top card of their stack. So very good, builds that aggression and allows you to potentially win against cards in your opponent's stack, especially since it gains the 3,000. Kind of reminds me of the Metal Greymon X, honestly, in a little bit of a way, gaining that 3,000 boost. Going into our level 6s, though, you can see there's definitely a lot, and I could definitely see some people's argument for being able to run different ratios, and I can definitely do that in the future. Again, just seeing how the deck will do, and just more playtesting will give me a better idea, and I'll probably give you a live deck profile later down the line. But we are running 2 copies of the new Imperialdramon Dragon mode. Kind of has the same effect as the old Fighter mode had, but it's when digivolving. If you have a blue card in the stack, you unsuspend itself. If it has a green card in the stack, then you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and then at the end of attack, you can digivolve into an Imperialdramon in name, which is also very important, and I'll talk about that later. When this Digimon would digivolve, you reduce the cost by 2. That only occurs with the end of attack effect, so just keep that in mind. That it's when attacking, and you can digivolve this first, and then attack, or you can digivolve using the Davis Monomiya effect, which we'll talk about when we get there as well. We are running the 2 copies of Fighter mode here. This is the new Fighter mode. When attacking, suspend all of your opponent's Digimon with no sources, which again is why Imperialdramon is run in this deck. And then you return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the owner's hand. You can also put a Dragon mode to your hand and place all of your opponent's suspended Digimon at the bottom of the owner's deck instead, so that's a pretty good effect as well. All turns, this Digimon gets 1,000 DP for every color in its Digivolution stack, so most of the time you'll have green and blue, so that will mean that it'll gain 2,000, so making it 15. And then for each color, then if it has 2 or more colors, then you get security +1 and blocker, so it's good offense and defensive card. Really like this card a lot, honestly. I'm really excited to play this card. But yeah, we have this at 2, just a good way of finishing the game. And again, you can kind of boost this up with the Dino B underneath it, putting it to 18 if you absolutely need to. Then we were running one of the old Imperialdramon Dragon mode. This is just good because I do like the ability to kind of go a little wide, and just running the 1 copy I think is fine for now, but I may cut this, put in the other Dragon mode depending on consistency. I am running this though, Bancho Stigmon. I'll explain why. This is specifically for one matchup that I think is going to be terrorizing the meta, and that is the War Greymon. Now, War Greymon can actually get very, very big, going up to something like almost 19,000 DP consistently for every stack it goes into. And the reason for Bancho Stigmon is because if you have the Dino B line and you DNA into Dino B and you suspend their War Greymon, which would be completely fine, you can then gain the 3,000. And then this will transfer over to Bancho Stigmon. Bancho Stigmon will gain 7,000 if it's attacking a Digimon with 12,000 DP or more. So you can attack that Digimon, that War Greymon, that has been suspended for a total of 19,000. And that is very, very powerful. And I think that it also has piercing and security +2. So you can still do a lot of chip damage to them as well. Plus, you can digivolve into the level 7s, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But I do think this is an interesting one of... Again, it may come out depending on how interesting the deck is and how consistent it is. But I do really like that card. Going into our level 7s, we are running Merciful mode and Paladin mode, and this has a good interaction with the Dragon mode here, and I actually will, I'm going to credit Battlery Inc., because I did speak to him prior to making this video about our deck builds, and he had definitely check out his channel. He has his own deck build as well, but I'm running the Merciful mode here, and I'm going to talk about this one first, because you can digivolve it. You basically, I think you're going to see this card all over the meta in BT12. You digivolve it, it can delete one of your opponent's Digimon for every mega in its stack. So if you have both Dragon and Fighter, that means you can attempt to delete something twice. Additionally, you place 10 cards to the bottom of the owner's deck from their trash. So that works against Beelzemon being able to just reduce the ability for them to OTK you. And then at the start of your turn, you can trash this card. If you do, you trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So this card is a very good card. Overall, and the fact that it trashes itself and puts itself to trash is very important as well, because although you digivolve it for 6, maybe giving your opponent a lot of memory, or maybe you can easily just put them to a memory gain. I mean, maybe this is the next turn over from being able to go into your level 6s. You can digivolve into your Paladin mode for a very small cost. Because you have a white Digimon in your trash, you can put that to the bottom of your deck, reduce the cost by 4, making it 3 to digivolve onto any of your level 6s. Paladin mode, I'm not going to go over everything he does, but basically he can bottom deck one of your opponents, all your opponent's Digimon with no sources. It does trash everything under 1 stack on digivolve and when attacking. So it is something to keep in mind as a card. And also, if you do the combo where you're attacking with Imperialdramon Dragon mode and your Merciful mode is in trash, you can actually digivolve this for one over any of your most of your level. No, sorry, just your dragon mode. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just your dragon mode, because you'll get the reduction of 2. It's an Imperialdramon, so you can digivolve into it at the end of attack, and you put this underneath, so it's going to be a 3 cost to digivolve, and then you reduce that cost by 2, making it a 1 to digivolve on top of your dragon mode. So just a really cool combination of cards you can use with this deck, and also they're big body, so if they are in security, they can potentially stop your opponent from being able to OTK you or die in the last check, or I think they're just potentially good cards. Unfortunately, it doesn't get searched by this VMon, so that's why we're running at 2. And it does miss Freya, like the blue memory boost I have over here, so that's that. Now, going into our other cards here, we're basically generic cards to just allow us to keep extending and searching. And so we have blue memory boost to get our pieces, because most of our cards are dual color, so they're searchable. I may consider putting a green memory boost potentially in here, only because we do run less copies of the green cards, and I don't want to skip over them, bottom deck them if I can help it. But it does get you rookies, so that's good too. Ice Wall, of course, because it's really just a really good card. Of course, 1 cost. You can, do what you do with that. Hammer Spark, Hammer Spark, I may consider cutting in the future, depending on some of the techs, if I want to tech some cards in. So, but Hammer Spark is good, obviously, for being able to keep it your turn. And it's a good security bomb, being able to swing in and hit into gain 2 memory, so that's good. And then Megadeth is just a good clearing card, whether it's in security or it's good against cross hearts or anything really that's like a cross deck. We are also running 2 of the new Davis. This is start your main phase. If you have a free in traits or tamer with Kennecy Joji, you gain 1 memory. And then when you attack with a 2-color blue and green Digimon, you can suspend this tamer, digivolve that Digimon to an Imperialdramon in its name, in your hand for its cost. So basically the combo is like this: like you would attack with one of your level 5s, doesn't really matter which one, but you attack with it, you activate Davis. Davis will be able to digivolve into your dragon mode for 3, and via that effect, because this when digivolving will occur, will mean that you're going to unsuspend this Digimon, and that's kind of what it'll do. And then you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or whatever you're going to do with this, and then digivolve at the end of attack into your fighter mode or your paladin mode. So that's pretty cool how that interaction works. 3 of the memory saver Davis, just able to get you a green and blue card is fine. And then Davis Ken just being able to unsuspend if we really have to over dual color cards, or be able to gain extra memory is just really good. But that's the general idea for the deck right now. Of course, I am still working on some things. This over here is my side deck, is kind of like your other cards you can consider. I'll go over the rookies. I'll kind of go over them first. Against stuff like Hunters, this card is actually really good. It stops them from being able to reduce the cost of Digivolutions. So Sayakumon is a potential card you could put in, as well as Madoki if you really want to stop memory gain. You can always take out the Jellymon or reduce like the Labramons or Vmons if you really want to, and just run Floodgates. But I do think that maybe 1-1 is totally fine in this deck. Also, you can run other Vmons over here. I have the Vmon from Star Deck 8 that you have less than 7 in your hand. Draw 1. And then Vmon, if you unsuspend, you gain a memory. The only thing is with this is that there's not as many cards in here that allow you to unsuspend consistently, and when you do, it's pretty late game. So you could definitely tag this in for other cards. You can actually even take out the Labramon, but I do think that it's definitely a choice. As for some of the level 4s, I thought that Randomon is actually pretty good. There's sometimes that you will have a blue tamer, or they'll be able to get rid of your stack, and if they do, you really don't have as much ability to go up your stack. So a nice little thing is you can digivolve after you start in main phase to be able to digivolve into this. Maybe you are able to crack a memory boost or hard play a Stingmon and still be able to play your deck. Another cool thing is that you can put a level 3 underneath one of your other cards to give this card jamming itself. So one thing that's really cool is that, let's say you have a stack and it has Labramon over here, or it has the this Vmon over here, with a XVmon, and you digivolve into the um, where are you? Randomon, then you can actually stick in one of the opposing pieces, like maybe you're missing the end of turn DNA, you put that underneath, and you'll be able to gain a big stack with multiple rookie effects. So that's just something to keep in mind. For our level 7, you could run Omnimon Blitz for game, just something we usually do. But if you did, you probably have to take out the Paladin mode and the Merciful mode, as they may conflict a little bit with this card. Um, then, of course, for our Tamers, we're running Mimi. Just, very easy to get to your level 5s at this point in the game. So, suspending Mimi, getting a stack ready is good. You could maybe take out one of the Hammer Sparks and put in a Mimi or something like that if you really wanted to. It's really not searchable, but at least you'll have the consistency, and it gives you the set the 3 memory tamer effect. You could run this one here, Izzy and Mimi, which is good because you do suspend a bunch of your opponent's Digimon, and in the start of your turn, if your opponent has a suspended Digimon, you gain 2 memory, and then you can, if you're missing a piece in your hand, like a level 6, then you can attack and attempt to digivolve into a level 6 Digimon on the top of your deck. You could miss, of course, but it is potentially a good card for the deck. And then for our lastly talking about our options, there's just a few texts here. There's Samadhi Santi. I just really like this as a 1-cost card, being able to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. And, we do have a lot of piercing effects now, so this card could be a good call to put in there. You do have to have at least 2 Digimon potentially for it to work. Or you can have, if you have a Davis Ken on field, you can do this effect, digivolve into a dual color, and then unsuspend via Davis and Ken. And then lastly, Hidden Potential Discovered is really good. And just so it's a little bit of a really cool interaction, you can use this with Dragon mode and digivolve into Paladin mode for 2. Unfortunately, you may not be able to unsuspend that same turn, but at the very least, you don't give him 7 memory. So that is something to keep in mind if you do try to do that thing. Or just digivolve into your Dragon mode Imperial, or your fighter mode for free, and keep it your turn as well. So just something to keep in mind. I do think that the deck is going to be a little bit better than what was in the JP meta, only because not as many decks. Well, we have a different ban list from theirs when they ran BT12. So if you look at their deck list, if you go on Digimon Meta and you take a look at what they had there, you'll see that they were running a lot of War Greymons, Black War Greymons, with 4 of the Greymon X antibody that reduces cost and has the protection. So, depending on what our meta looks like, this could see a little bit of a higher tier than what it's currently appraised to be. But I do think this deck is going to be interesting to play, and I can't wait to try it at locals and see if it goes up. Maybe I'll try it at a regional at some point, or an Ultimate Cup. Well, not an Ultimate Cup. Well, maybe an Ultimate Cup if they have different rules. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this deck gave you a good idea of where to start with the deck, or at least some concepts that you can apply to the deck. I hope it helps, and as always, stay classy.